He wasn't supposed to survive. But every time the sky turned into fire, Commander McCampbell came down with more victories than fear. In the scorching heat of the Pacific during World War II, there was one American pilot whose name Japanese aviators whispered with genuine fear, Commander David McCampbell. But long before he became a legend, he was just a quiet, polite Southern boy from Alabama, raised on discipline, faith, and an obsession with the skies. McCampbell wasn't loud like other fighter pilots, he wasn't reckless, and he didn't brag. Instead, he studied every machine he touched, every maneuver, and every weakness an enemy aircraft could possibly have. When he eventually strapped into the cockpit of the F-6F Hellcat, a machine built for destruction, it was like destiny clicked into place. The Pacific was burning. The Japanese Empire was advancing like a tidal wave, and America needed a hero who could rise above the flames. McCampbell didn't just rise and he soared. The first time McCampbell tasted real combat was during the legendary Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, a massive air battle where U.S. naval pilots shattered Japanese air power in a single historic day. Most pilots experienced terror, but McCampbell experienced clarity. He launched from the USS Essex into a sky filled with streaks of fire, twisting metal and enemy planes diving like arrows. The Japanese Zero, light and agile, was considered one of the most dangerous fighters ever built. But McCampbell studied its weaknesses: weak armor, poor dive performance, and a fragile engine that overheated under stress. In the chaos of battle, he shot down 5 enemy planes in a single mission, earning the coveted Ace in a Day title. The deck crew on the Essex watched him land, engine smoking, wings shredded, yet calm as ever, like he had just finished a Sunday drive. McCampbell wasn't just a killer in the air. He was a leader who brought his squadron, VF-15, to a level of precision and excellence unmatched in the war. His pilots described him as cold steel wrapped in kindness, always soft-spoken, always humble, yet absolutely terrifying once he climbed into the Hellcat. He trained his men ruthlessly, drilling them until they could outmaneuver a Zero with their eyes closed. He would walk the flight deck at night, checking his pilots' planes himself, making sure every round was loaded, every bolt tightened. To him, leadership wasn't shouting, it was responsibility. And he took responsibility for every man under his command. In less than a year, his squadron became the highest-scoring Navy fighter squadron of the entire war, and McCampbell became the symbol of American dominance in the sky. The day 60 enemy planes appeared, and McCampbell didn't blink. On October 24th, 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the largest naval battle in human history, McCampbell faced the impossible. Radar lit up with a terrifying sight: nearly 60 Japanese aircraft approaching the U.S. fleet in a massive strike formation. Most American pilots would scramble the entire ready deck, but McCampbell did something insane, something only legends dare attempt. He took off with only one wingman, just 2 Hellcats against 60 enemy planes. What followed was one of the most heroic single missions in aviation history. McCampbell climbed high above the Japanese formation, cut his engine to avoid detection, and dove into them like a thunderbolt. His wingman later said, "I just tried to stay out of his way." He wasn't flying, he was hunting. The Hellcat that wouldn't acquit McCampbell. His trusty F-6F Hellcat wasn't the most elegant fighter of the war, but in his hands it became a weapon of mythic power. He pushed the aircraft to its absolute limit, diving faster, climbing harder, and fighting longer than any engineer designed it for. During the Leyte Gulf mission, he ran out of ammunition mid-battle. Most pilots would retreat, but McCampbell didn't. Instead, he flew alongside enemy fighters, distracting them, forcing them off course, and protecting the U.S. fleet with maneuvers alone, risking his life every second. By the time he returned to the USS Essex, his guns were empty, his fuel tank nearly dry, and his aircraft looked like it had flown through a volcano. But he had saved thousands of American lives, again. The deck crew lifted him on their shoulders. The quiet Alabama boy had become the greatest ace the U.S. Navy ever produced. Japanese pilots began calling him the blue-eyed ghost because he appeared out of nowhere, struck with impossible precision, and vanished into the clouds. His tactics became required study in American flight schools: energy fighting, vertical maneuvers, high-angle shooting, and psychological pressure. But what made him truly terrifying wasn't his skill. It was his restraint. McCampbell never fired unless he was sure, never wasted ammunition, never chased glory. He fought like a surgeon, Precise, controlled, disciplined. And that's what made him deadly. For his unbelievable courage during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, McCampbell was awarded the Medal of Honor, America's highest military decoration. But when reporters asked him how it felt, he simply said, "I was just doing my job." That was McCampbell. Glory meant nothing to him. His men, his mission, and his country meant everything. After the war, McCampbell didn't seek fame, money, or power. He lived a quiet life, mentoring young pilots, teaching leadership, and attending Navy reunions. When he died in 1996, veterans from around the country honored him not as a warrior, but as a symbol of American courage, a man who faced overwhelming odds and never hesitated. David McCampbell wasn't just a warfighter. He was a moral compass in the chaos of war. He believed victory meant protecting his men, not killing enemies. He believed in precision, discipline, and bravery without ego. He believed that leadership wasn't about medals, it was about responsibility. And that is why, decades later, he remains one of America's greatest military heroes. The legacy that still guards the skies today. U.S. Navy pilots study his missions, his tactics, and his philosophy. His name is inscribed in aviation halls of fame, etched into the hearts of fighter pilots, and remembered in every aircraft carrier that launches jets into dangerous skies. McCampbell's story isn't just history. It is a reminder that heroes are not born, they are forged in fire.